Welcome to the Outer Rim Rookie, a beginner's journey to join the 501st and Rebel Legion. My name is Rob Williams. Today, I've got two lovely guests on. You probably recognize if you've ever watched my show before. My first is my co-host for the Generation X-Wing podcast. It is Jamie Pale Rider Milman. Say hello, Jamie.
Hello.
And this is weird. You're my guest today.
Yeah, it is a little weird.
And also, a good friend of mine, I was writing out a long intro of how to explain Nick here, but I thought I'd just steal it from his actual book. He did the writing for me here. This is, by the way, he's the author of Safe Space, a true story of faith, betrayal, and the power of the Force. Available at Amazon, sir? Where do you find us?
You can get it at Amazon, you can get it at Barnes & Noble, you can get it at Chapters, you can get it anywhere where you can order books.
Well, let me introduce you to Dr. Nick Harrison, or Nicholas Harrison, PhD.
Either one works.
Nicholas Harrison is a writer, actor, director, swordsman, fight director, playwright, and educator. As a professional actor and stunt performer in film and television, he has appeared in many popular films and series such as Scooby-Doo 2, Supernatural Stargate, DC's Legends of Tomorrow, and the popular Air Bud franchise. Don't forget that one. I'm reading your words, sir. It's autobiographical
Wow.
play, How Star Wars Saved My Life, premiered in 2017. He's studied in the London Academy of Performing Arts, holds a master's degree from the University of Victoria and a PhD from the University of BC, and is currently an instructor at Capilano University. He resides in the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Tsawwassen and Musqueam peoples. It is Dr. Nick Harrison. Hello, Dr. Nick.
Hi, everybody. You can just call me Nick. It's fine.
I have also a couple things that were not in that intro there. He is also the EXO executive officer of the Rebel Legion Falcon Base. He was a one-time CO, commanding officer of the Outer Rim Garrison, both located here in British Columbia. And so we've got 501st, we've got acting, we've got sword fighting, all that sort of stuff. And we got Jamie!
Yeah, I don't have any accolades.
But Jamie has punched me a couple times in the past, and it really hurt. So that's his fight directing right there.
And Jamie also was a great CO of the Outer Rim Garrison. So he's the guy that I tried to pattern my CO ship after him because I really, really admired his leadership. I'm not just saying that.
I appreciate you saying that, Nick.
I can't believe I forgot that because Jamie, I'm so sorry because you're so used to being on my show. We're supposed to be on our show, and you have come on my Outer Rim Rookie show in the past to show off like the Scout Trooper costume and how to build it, which by the way, has got over 1,000 likes. I can't believe it. So Jamie, thank you very much. And Terry, of course. But the reason, Nick is on this show today is not just because he's an awesome person, not because of his work with the 501st, but he's also you teach acting. Mm-hmm. You are friends with Goofy. You're friends with the wizard Merlin from
many years ago. I was friends with both of them. I'm now more distant acquaintances when I watch them at the park. And there's no more Merlin, so that's kind of sad that he's been retired. But yeah,
he's been retired. Really?
He's been retired. I think they pull him out every now and then for special occasions, but he's no longer a feature at either park.
He's getting pretty old.
He is. That beard is getting longer, you know. Is going from the white wizard to the gray wizard, or does it go the opposite way?
Just so we're clear, viewers watching, when you say you're friends with,
for the kids,
I don't know if I'm going to get a straight answer for you because you're committed. You're committed to the bit, but for other people, that's someone who has performed as this character at Disneyland or Disney World. Just for outsiders,
And it's interesting too because there are former cast members who no longer subscribe to that ideology. They've decided, no, I was an employee. This is who I played, and I'm not at that place. I still like to say friends with and keep it distant because there's always that element of, you want to keep magic alive. So I'm a firm believer in that. So
well, that's kind of why we're here today, right?
Rob
exactly. And I want to help with that endeavor in our own kind of trooping experiences.
So for those who have never watched the show before, let's go around the horn a little bit here. Characters that I'm friends with the 501st.
See, that's great. Yes.
I have a Scout Trooper costume. I have a Nia Nun costume, right? Oh my God, that jaw.
Wow.
He is swallow you whole. He's got a Nia. I got a Nia Nun costume. I'm currently working on my Reese costume, which I was ready to tear the walls apart with the spats today because it's just frustrating. But that's the costumes that I have. Jamie, tell us what costumes that you've built and perform as, or just go out as for 501st troops and such, or Rebel troops.
For the Rebels, it's just the one so far. I'm privileged to be friends with Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then other than that, I also built a TK, like a Stormtrooper, a New Hope costume, and a Scout Trooper as well. It's honestly, like, the whole reason I'm here is because of Obi-Wan.
And we'll get into the purpose of this whole episode in a sec here. But what's your TK number, first of all, sir?
It is TK21126.
I'm TB 55077, which is probably already listed in the name here. And Nick, what's your TK number? And tell us the characters that you have, because I know you've moved off on some characters, but all the characters that you've performed as or trooped as, I should say.
My TK number typically is SL79797, and depending, if I'm an officer, the first two letters will change with each, as you know. So there's, the ESB Vader, which is always great fun. There is my Imperial officer, the Stormtrooper Corps, as well as the regular Navy, as well as the ISB officer. So I've got those three down. The other ones, let's see. I built a Death Trooper and was so happy with building it. And then the first and only time I trooped in it, I got so upset because I could not engage with people the way I like to engage with. And I'm not used to not being able to not improvise with people. So I sold off the costume right away. I'm like, done. Hate it.
Yeah.
Intimidating costume, but not fun for me. So there was that one I built. I also at one point had built an AT or an AT-AT driver.
I did not know that. I didn't know we had an AT-AT driver.
I also had built a TIE fighter pilot and did not like that either, and got rid of it because also I was like by far the tallest TIE fighter pilot ever. Especially in the garrison, when I felt like Gandalf. That should have been my call sign. That's just me. I'm not saying anything about anyone else. I'm freakishly large. So, and then for the Rebel Legion, of course, there's the original trilogy of X-Wing pilot, as well as a Blue Squad pilot from Rogue One, as well as there's a Jedi as well, and also for the droid builders there's the ESB R2D2.
Not Chewbacca?
Oh my gosh, I'm also very good friends with Chewie. Yes with that Chewie is ESB Chewie, Empire Strikes Back Chewie.
We will talk about Major Poppins as well as
my Imperial officer,
as well as can't believe him,
Montgomery Starstalker. Yes, how could you forget him?
I've got the coin, sir, but I know Dastardly is already upset about this, but he's shaking his fist as we speak.
There may be a film about Starstalker and Dastardly sometime in the future, just to warn you.
Oh, really?
Yes, there might be.
I think you know what? I did hear a couple rumblings about this. So
Marco is very, very excited to do the little short film about those two.
So the reason we're talking about all these characters and all these costumes being friends with is because let's backtrack a bit. 2 weeks ago, you and me, Nick, had a ILM event that we were actually hired for. One of those rare moments where you get hired for an event by the people who created the magic, I guess, of Star Wars. And it was a big deal for me. I'm assuming that this was, exciting for you as well. But we went to this place, and I had my Nien Nunb costume, and you were Vader. We had a couple troopers. We had an X-wing pilot out there, and R2 wheeling around like crazy. And it was a lot of fun. It was a tremendous amount of fun. Great memories. It was interesting to see how everybody flocked to the troopers and Vader, and X-wing pilots and Nien Nunb were just kind of like, "Oh yeah, you're here too," and R2, and everybody flocks to R2, right? But right. It was a lot of fun connecting and talking with people. And in my costume, I have the sound voice, and with Nien Nunb voices from Battlefront as well as the movie, and I'm playing that, and I've got 12 sounds. And eventually, after 3 hours of being in that helmet, and that was a long 3 hours at one point, but 3 hours in that helmet with the fans breaking down, just battery dying, and the batteries dying in the voice box, I found myself getting tired of hearing the same thing over and over again just from myself. And Ryan, I know, who was following me the whole time, was sick and tired of hearing Nien Nunb singing da 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 da. So I realized at that point that, and also being costumed, like, I wasn't being as outgoing as I really wanted to be. Now this was a paid job, but I want to show the best I can. I want to be out there and entertaining kids. I want to be out there and creating this magic for just people who want to donate money or just visit us. I just want a picture. It's kind of important to me, and it may not be the same for a lot of other people, but I really want to connect with the character and really want to just make it a good memory. But there's also that person in myself where it's hard for me to remove myself from myself. I want to be out there and improvise a little bit, go get into character, and it's difficult for me, even with the mask. It's easier with the mask on. So I don't know how it is for you, Jamie, because you've got no mask. You're beard and sword or saber and all that sort of stuff. So today I want to kind of talk to you about getting into character. We were talking about a TED Talk, but Jamie had the best idea. Instead of a Jedi Talk, it's a JED-Talk. It's Trooping for Rookies. It's how do you get into character? And since you are a teacher of acting, and since you've been in this world of Disney and stuff like that, I want you to give me and Jamie some tips on how to just kind of remove myself from my own head and get into character and just make it a little more real for those people who are visiting us. So that was my long-winded intro of why we're here. So I want to just get your opinion. Right.
Okay. Wow. And go. So it's there's no one way. First of all, there's no one way or a right and a wrong way to engage. So over the years, I've been fortunate because I've done a lot of corporate entertainment. I've done a lot of Disney entertainment. I've both volunteer and paid as various costume characters and face characters, as well as characters that get to wear a mask. And again, this is going to sound really weird to a degree, but the first thing that I always tell people is watch people. The first thing to do as any kind of a performer, or even before you're a performer, watch people. And what I mean by that is when you go to the coffee shop, your daily routine. Today's society, we are so inundated with these things, like which magically appears, phones. So we walk into Starbucks or Blends or Tim Hortons or whatever, and I always watch people in the line, and they're so focused on non-engagement. So they're always looking at their, rather than looking around and seeing who's out there. And as a performer, we have to get out of the sort of the introverted cocoon or my cone of silence when I'm in public and become a pseudo extrovert. if that makes sense. You have to be aware of the people you're engaging. Now, every performer, and I'm sure Jamie has encountered this as well with Obi-Wan, you can start to sense who wants to be approached and who doesn't want to be approached, and who really wants to be approached, but there's no way you want to approach them because you know it's going to be a gong show.
Nick, I think you've rescued me from one of those particular situations.
Yeah, I think I did. Oh, where was that?
At Fan Expo.
That's right. Oh, yeah, that's right. So, and again, that's the other thing too. That's like we become that band of brothers as costume characters, watching out for each other too, and that becomes instinctual for me because I can read people. So in a way, you become a bit of an empath, judging and sensing the people around you. And that just takes time. And even sometimes when I go into the parks and I go there with friends, I had this great moment where someone was asking me about characters and hugging. And the funny thing about that was I said, first of all, you never engage the hug. You never suggest a hug. You let the hug come to you. So if the guest engages the hug, you can reciprocate. And then they asked, how long do you hug for? What amount of time? I said, actually, you let the guest break the hug. And so I had just said that, and we were walking through Main Street, and there was Chip and Dale standing there. And this little boy ran up to Dale and was hugging Dale, but clutching on. And then Dale was like tapping the head of the boy and, hugging them. And Chip was kind of doing the laughing behind. And there was a queue of people. And it went on for an extended period of time. And I was like, oh, watch. You're going to see this. He's not going to break the hug. And so the mother came and pulled the boy away. But the boy ran back again to Dale. And people were laughing and stuff. And the reason being, when I was trained, and of course they've changed the way that people are trained now and educated as performers in the parks, but the way I was trained was that is done because you never know how long they need to be hugged. You never know why. So you give them what they need. And that's an interesting thing. So that's in terms of physical contact, which now after COVID, there's a lot of people that do and don't want to be touched. So again, it's reading people. So as a character that you might be friends with, that is a villain or is a hero, you have to approach the environment first of all. So for example, ILM. So yes, it's an ILM event, or let's just say, for example, it's a fan con or something. Your character, as you know you're at fan con. But I love to give the characters that I portray a backstory to that. So when I go into that sort of frame of mind, I am maybe at FanCon, but it's more fun for me if I'm, say, Major Poppins, and I'm at the desk. I am at a recruiting station for the Empire. So everything that I'm asked always comes back to the Empire, which is a lot of fun because you get these questions and it's a habit for me. It's become such a part of me that it becomes a habit. When people ask me something else about Star Trek or something else, I will feign I have no idea what they're talking about. That being said, I do have a special spot on my measuring tape as Major Poppins that is the ego of Starfleet, which is at the very end. Yeah. So I do that as a thing for the Starfleet people. But I either like to be either on a mission, or if it's Chewbacca's looking for something, or if it's Vader is out to recruit people and to prove that the Empire is really a nice place. So it gives me a little bit of something to start working with. So for like Nyan Num or Nien Num, it's who is Nien Num? So let me ask you that. Who is Nien Num?
He's the co-pilot of the Millennium Falcon.
Okay.
He was once a pirate.
Yeah.
But he found solace with the rebellion, and now he seems joyful. At the same time, very good pilot, very good at what he does, and dependable. He seems personable. It seems like he interacts with people because you see him, and this is very little screen time he gets, but on the screen time he gets, you see him in the background, he just joins a whole bunch of people talking and stuff, and he's sitting there laughing, yeah, and all that sort of stuff. But he seems personal. He's high-fiving at this, and he just seems like he's joyful, personable, and approachable, but at the same time, very good at what he does. I mean, hell, they gave him the Millennium Falcon. So
all right. So, and he was a pirate at one time. So who was his crew?
That I don't know. I didn't. I just remember hearing the story of him smuggling and stuff.
So great. So that's a great place to make your story, to make your Nianam yours. The name of the ship that you flew before you became a member of the rebellion, how you got recruited to the rebellion, why you like to laugh. Is Nianam a bit of a joker? So it's all these things that will then give you things you can start to do as that character in costume. So maybe it's like you've got a really cheesy magic trick you like to perform and you think it's great, but people know it's really bad, right? And then so you get the people to play along with you. Or maybe you like to take someone's like something from them and hide it or give it to someone else to get them in trouble, to be a little bit of a rebel rouser that way. So it's, again, giving yourself little tasks that you can do to engage, because some people will want to engage more than others. Some people will want just strictly a photo. Some people will ask you questions, and this is where you have a great time with your with this, say for example, the singing that he does with to the Rebel or to the Star Wars theme, is it can be that maybe he wants to audition for people that he's a great singer, or to prove that he also, so there's ways you can do this and to bring it in and make it more part of a theatrical experience, as opposed to just wandering around and just being, oh, here's this character I'm representing. So part of it when I teach, like I teach method and stuff, which we won't have to get into here, but essentially it's the who, what, when, why, where, all these things about your character, like what their favorite food is, all these sorts of things. Are they allergic to something? Do they have a distaste for something here on Earth? Then you can have like a repulsion to something or a real attraction to something. And again, anything that a character does that might be questionable, especially for evil characters or characters that maybe are not necessarily nice, it's a great way to always turn the joke on yourself. So someone who's a mean-spirited person, so for example, Major Poppins, again, it's Stormtrooper Corps. These are essentially, they're murderers in the Empire. They organize like assaults. How do you make something like that? So if you make it that this person is so into the Empire that they sound ludicrous about it, but they make it sound so great. Like I'll have kids that come up and I'll tell the parents that there'll be a shuttle leaving tomorrow with their children on it, and the great gruel they're going to have, like all these things, and like 20 minutes of sleep a day, it's like camp, like all these things, but make it like it's so much fun, but it's so over the top, because I could turn it into something quite evil. And you want people to have a positive experience. So any kind of the joke that is made always has to come back on you. And you'll notice that any kind of playfulness you have with someone, if you watch Disney park characters, if you watch other people, if you watching me too, I'll always bring it back to me as the fall guy. So it's, again, and that comes from theater sports as well, that I used to play for many years at the VTSL, is you always want to set up the person you're engaging with. They are the hero. Make them leave feeling great about themselves or having a laugh with you, not having a laugh being laughed at.
Yes,
if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
So
totally.
it's really just again, it's so much about that reading a person, and that first few seconds you can tell when you look at someone's eyes if they are going to be fun, if they are going to need actually a little bit of comfort because they're going through something, or someone who just sort of, let's get a picture and let's move on, right? So
No, that makes sense, because I'm thinking back to one of my first troop with you guys at C4. I remember you carrying around a ticket machine, and you're handing out almost like parking tickets or something like that, for performance tickets to people because they were breaking some of the rules. And
I made up my own violations. Like, I had like they weren't imperial enough. They were either that, and then it was too imperial, or they were not smiling enough, or smiling too much. Like, it was a contradiction. So no matter what, they were going to get a ticket, and to make it kind of fun. And then also requesting that, there was I think a 2 million credit fine that they could pay me, and I'd let it go, and stuff like that. So, and sometimes it was just being looking too good for the convention, those sorts of things. So again, making it positive for them, right? And I've seen some people who think they're really good at engaging people, but they'll be like, "Hey, your hair sucks," and the person's like, I'm going to say something that I should never really share, and I'll take out the details of where it was. It was not with the 501st or the Rebel Legion, and it wasn't with anything here, but I was doing some entertainment somewhere. Someone thought they were really funny, started to make fun of someone's hair because it was disheveled. And the person, they're like, "Oh, look at this, look at your hair." And they started mocking that person. And then the person said, "I have cancer."
God damn.
Right? You don't know, right? Or if someone's got a limp. And some people, it's like, we see the obvious with someone. So we go, "Oh, well, that's so obvious, I'll point it out." No, never point it out unless they bring it up, and you can use it to make them more empowered. But man, I've seen characters just crash and burn. And it's like the thing, if you're going to be engaged with someone, don't bring up those kinds of subjects. You don't know.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
One thing that's a challenge for me, especially in a character that doesn't talk a lot, but yet talks gibberish. I mean, like, I'm limited to what I say, so I'm left to, for example, like the Jawas. You don't hear a lot of them talking, the Utinis, so there's a lot of performance. We have some fantastic Jawas, and when you talked about engaging, they are very engaging. They're being mischievous, stealing things, but at the same time they're giving little kids little jewels, and they're so engaging. And they're actually, and I love engaging with them because they're coming around stealing my stuff. And it's like Valerie and those girls they're really good. So when I'm not able to say things, I have to perform with just mostly my body. And my initial reaction is almost like a mascot, like you said, hands over the mouth, doing this. And it just seems like it doesn't seem natural, but it's what you see a lot of people doing. So what about those characters that don't speak?
Right. And that's a great question too, because Chewbacca has limited vocabulary that people don't understand. So again, it's your physical reaction to stuff. And the other thing you can do, thinking about your character, is as a pilot, okay, so he doesn't speak English, right? So if there's something you really want to get across to someone, like, what is it that Nian, sorry, I keep saying Nian because it's how they pronounce it in
either or, Porsche, Nike
in Disney. So how Nian, what does he love? What is his passion? And what is his passion?
I'm assuming it's flying.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So imagine him trying to tell a child about the beauty of space and how he went so fast. Maybe he did the Kessel Run faster than Han Solo, right? And trying to explain. So it's like you can do very simplified actions, but to engage using, not drawing it into you, but bringing it out to the space that you're in. So to really engage a child, to like make them see with their mind's eye, and you don't need to do it with English. You can do that with gestures. And great examples of it that come to the top of my, again, bad movies, but very interesting scenes like that are watching things. Okay, first of all, like Book of Boba Fett, watch how he talks to the Sand People, how they communicate with trying to learn the languages. And watch Kevin Costner in Dances with Wolves and the actors that engage with him in Dances with Wolves. Watch the piano with you have a character there who is deaf, who has to communicate not just with sign language but with stuff like that. And it's just the space you can create, and it's going to feel, when you put on any kind of a helmet that or a mask, it becomes so personal. You become so enclosed and you feel so small because you feel like you're in this sort of shell or a wall. So it's a matter about making that animated. And a lot of that is, again, this may sound odd, but the way I was trained and what I love doing, I still do it as an actor myself, even though, you know, our method is great and all that stuff. I call myself an outside-in actor. So as soon as I dress in the costume, each piece of the costume means something to me. So when I put on Vader's boots, like, or feeling the leather, the undersuit coming on, you know, it's again starting to feel the scars on the body that were burned in Mustafar, and just like, you know, these sort of feeling of that, starting to feel the ache in the legs from, you know, where the cybernetic fusion to the muscles have happened. So I started to think about that. I just, you know, fantasize, well, okay, so this is what that feels like. And you'll notice when I get dressed, I don't know, maybe you have or not, there's a point where I stop talking. I'll be like, da, 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 and then like, boom, I stop talking, because I'm preparing myself for the character. And then you'll also find generally that until I'm out of the costume, it's no longer Nick. It's either whatever character is there until I'm back and removing the costume, because that initial dressing of the costume, and I'm sure this is like for you too, Jamie, with the obi and getting the robes, there's a heaviness and a feeling of the different textures. So it's really embracing that feel, like, and the memory association. So, you know, the first time feeling the boots on, you know, the burning flesh, the sausage of the body or whatever it is, right? Whatever. And then also the power and knowing the intimidation, or the chest box. And this is part of the life support system that's making sure it's on to give me the life. So there becomes this kind of a solemnity with the dressing. And again, I feel that with like Nyan or Nia Num, you know, with the vest and like the flight suit, like, where are you when you're putting that flight suit on? So as you can start thinking, okay, initially, yeah, you were in the change room with a bunch of sweaty other people, whatever, but to take the moment as you start to breathe and start to feel that the privilege and the honor, like imagine knowing that you've lived another day to put on that red flight suit. And why the red flight suit? What's the significance of it? Is that a suit of honor? Did that color mean anything? These are all the things that we can start believing in, you know, putting the character into, right? And for me, it's like, I really wish I had a soundboard for the dome of the helmet of Vader, because I'd love to have that like oxygen thing, the shoonk as it comes on, because it would be so awesome. But it allows me to then prepare for what's to come as this imposing character, or what his objective is for that day. Why is he at this event? What does he want to achieve? So if it's like ILM, it's like, you know, it's like, is it this important to get financial backers to get money for the new Death Star because he screwed up on the last one? Is it, you know, so again, if you have this in your mind, right? Like, it's like when you're teaching, right? Like, what is my teaching objective for today? And so think of it like that with Nia Num. What is my objective today? I need a new pilot or I need a new co-pilot now that I'm flying the Millennium Falcon. Or I need a new test pilot because I built a new ship. It can be many different things. And because he speaks his own language, you don't need to let other people know what it is. As long as you see it in your mind's eye, you can relay that to someone else. But it's really about connecting the breath with the thought of what it is.
I like that idea, because we were just talking about the Jawas. You yourself, you sometimes have these little props, whether it's writing tickets or it's Starstalker with his coin and his his mustache.
There's the mustache for
is
Starstalker. Yes,
it's beautiful. By the way.
And of course he's got his which you haven't seen yet, but he does have his tea caddy holster.
Yes, I have seen that. It's almost as good as the mustache. But It's just like, these are props. And as you're saying that, giving a character something, a little prop or something like that to hand out. I know the job was hand out little, not kyber crystals, but little crystals just to engage. Almost like the first thing that came to my mind was like business card, just to promote Millennium Falcon pilot or something like that. You just
right?
Something to hand out to kids or to adults, just to kind of say, hey, you remember me? I used to fly this thing right here. Mm-hmm. And it's having those little trinkets might be useful as well.
And also too, there's a great way you could turn the into almost like a Smokey the Bear type character. So it could be like about safety. So those little cards could be things about things not to do in hyperspace, right? Like little silly things, because he's seen it all. He saw someone get too close to a sublight engine before it got turned on, right? Something like that. It's like, oh, don't do that, right? So you can make it fun, but again, something that is organic for him. And like with Obi-Wan too, right? And then now with all this the new season that came out, the mini series, I'm sure there's a lot more now for you, Jamie, that you can be like, oh, this is great. You've got some more material to work with.
Yeah, for sure. That's for me. And Rob, I know you mentioned this earlier. I started off as a stormtrooper and a biker scout, and I'm not normally super outgoing with strangers, but with my face being fully covered, it felt much easier to engage with someone that I don't know. It was so much easier. So yeah, going into Obi-Wan after that I find it really difficult to do both things at once. So one, to engage with someone like a stranger, and two, to do it while staying in character. That to me is really difficult. I think that's I'm having fun most of the time, so it's easy for me to start laughing and goofing off a little bit with the other troopers. But having my face out there is it's vulnerable. A big stumbling block. Yeah, it's vulnerable. And also too, on a side note, have you watched the summer holiday special for the Lego Star Wars?
No, not yet.
Okay, the only reason I mention that is because there's a whole through line there about Obi-Wan and smiling. So I think you would probably enjoy. There's a bunch of cool things in there for that. But cool. Now again, so you both have brought up something really interesting that is kind of a secret thing with a lot of performers. And you mentioned it with the tickets with Major Poppins, or my meter thing, or yes. So those are like touchstones. So performers will use those sorts of things if they start to, not necessarily only if they're getting ungrounded, but there's a moment if you start to lose your character, come back to your touchstone. So for Major Poppins, it's like, I got to get these tickets out because I want to impress Lord Vader that I can give so many citations to help him raise money, or whatever it is. And then for Obi-Wan, maybe it's his lightsaber. Like, oh, this lightsaber. So bringing it back to something so simple that's right there in front of you can really help keep you grounded, and to bring it back to what it needs to be. So it's finding those things. And I was thinking too, with you, Rob, talking about with Nien Nunb being a pilot. Of course, have either of you read the Rogue Squadron books, the Wedge Antilles stuff? So Corran Horn, absolutely. Right, who's a pilot. Yeah. It keeps going back to him and that medallion that he keeps looking for when he's flying his X-Wing, and like trying to find where that medallion is to ground him. So it can be a small part of the costume. It can be a soundbite in your costume. It can be the smallest thing, but that'll help bring you back and ground you into your character.
For me, I like that you brought up touchstones, because that's something that I've been thinking about kind of as we're approaching this call with you, Nick, and just in general, like how do I go about staying in character? And for me, and I don't know if this is way off, I like the idea of a physical object. I feel like it has more weight to it, but I was thinking of just phrases as touchstones, like spoken phrases by Obi-Wan. So things like "so uncivilized" or like "flying is for droids" and that kind of thing.
Yes, or a certain point of view.
Yeah.
If someone starts to argue, like if you get into a weird argument with someone who's like wanting to challenge you on knowledge or something, you can say even things like, like, well, that is true from a certain point of view. And then, and then you're boom, right? Yeah. And again, like you've got, especially with like characters like Obi-Wan, you've got so many moments where you need to go excuse yourself to deactivate the, whatever, or depending whatever you want to do, or it's like, I've got to get this child. I've got a child in my my speeder. I need to get in my ship. I got these two kids. I won't bore you with the details, but whatever. So you can like bring it back within that, or
you could carry that droid with you. That little
that's right, Lola.
And he says, yes. And just be having your back pocket kind of thing. And it's just like, if you want to end a conversation, it's like, I need to return this to a lovely lady.
Great thing. Okay, you get a broken one, and then you go, do you know how to repair droids? There's a little girl, and this was really important. So then you can have, I really have to go.
That's a great idea. I like that.
Oh, it's great. I love it.
So it's like people, oh my God, right? It's like, she's a little princess. I won't tell you who, right?
It's hush hush,
Or there's even great moments to have in your Obi Sash with some beef jerky you can give people. I saved this from Tatooine.
Oh, the other little
jerky, the little dried up meat for people. It's like here, like a little.
Oh, that's brilliant! I love it.
Fun like that, right? Which again ties people. And again, what it does is a touchstone for you, but it also brings that fan back to those moments in the movie, which keeps it grounded.
Do you have allergies to sandfish? I've got this.
Right? Yeah. Or asking someone for their GPS is, do you know the Junglen wastes? Like, I need to find a couple items.
Oh my gosh,
that.
yeah.
And again, and also making them feel like they can contribute to help you is a great thing. So they feel they've helped Obi-Wan, or they've helped me and Num, or they've helped hide Chewbacca from a stormtrooper or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel when I perform, when I troop in my it is in a way.
It is a performance. It's a performance.
When I perform and troop in my TB costume, my Scout Trooper costume, I have no problem whatsoever. I'm chatty. I'm engaging. It's all because I still have Ni and Nun covering my face as well. But for some reason, that's different. Maybe it's because it's new. Maybe it's because I'm limited to the fact I cannot speak. But I've got that Scout Trooper on, and I love making fun of myself. I love going into that booth, that Blaster Trooper booth, and getting shot up and just kind of mocking him a little bit, like, come on, you can't shoot, and all of a sudden, bang, and they hit me. And I'm like, all right, lucky shot, try it again, because I don't like carrying a blaster. I really don't feel comfortable. It's just my personal thing about guns and stuff like that. I don't feel comfortable with Nian carrying a blaster, and I really don't like carrying a blaster as a Scout Trooper because I got nowhere to put the damn thing. I like to move my hands and stuff.
You know what? It's funny you say that, because you probably have noticed neither one of my Rebel pilots, Montgomery Starstalker definitely not, Major Poppins definitely not. None of those characters carry blasters.
Yeah.
Because again, I think it's also when you're engaging many different people, it's, I don't know, there's something about it that says something else. Like wearing a blaster means, really you're, and it's okay that people do. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, for some people, it's like, I don't want to pull it out and make it the emphasis. This is my character. I'm a killer. I want to make the emphasis of the person that I'm engaging with having a good time. So, and also I can be that powerful that I don't need a blaster. right? As a Major Poppins, I can always summon a stormtrooper if I need a stormtrooper. Or as Montgomery Starstalker, it's his wit that will, he likes to talk himself out of situations because he's such a flyboy or whatever it is. So, right. And again, also when you wear a blaster, and again, everyone's different how they engage it, but it also makes you more approachable. People will approach you more when you don't have a weapon or something that looks intimidating than when you don't. So when you don't have it, you're saying, you can come talk to me. So it's sort of a nonverbal communication to someone to go engage with me.
Sorry, I apologize. No, sorry.
Oh.
I think there are people who are attracted to the idea of a blaster and want to look at it and yes. engage in that. But I sense they're the older people, not the yes. younger kids.
Right. And it also too with blasters, we've all been there when someone's dropped their blaster.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And it's just like, no. Oh. I would always hate to be in that situation. I mean, it's also, and again, that's why we always have those things on the troops, like, is this a blaster or non-blaster environment? Mm-hmm. And then what happens if you can't wear a blaster? So it's great to not troop with them so you don't rely on it. Because I see some people do. It becomes their talisman, their touchstone. Yeah. And that's okay, but it just is so aggressive. And for me, it's all about that positive. I want to keep whoever I'm working for or with, that brand I want to sell in a positive light. Mm-hmm. I want to be a spokesperson and ambassador for that franchise. And with the masks, and you're both right. Like wearing a mask, like many centuries ago, when there was only one such park, the great thing about wearing a mask that conceals your face, and you've probably been there as well in those troops, I know we all have, with sensitive troops with children. Mm-hmm. The great thing about a mask is it hides the tears. Yeah. And that is like, yeah. I dated a princess once upon a time. And I was always telling her how impressed I was, because those princesses, they cannot cry when they see someone. They have to keep that positive up. They have to be the one, and they get hit with a lot of stuff every day. Mm-hmm. And I think in my book, I have a whole bit about the story about that young guest in the park that time. And being buried with her favorite doll. So it's like, how do you deal with that? So again, the princesses, I always have such respect for what they had. First of all, creepy men and creepy people, but also you will be told things, and I'm sure you've all been told things in costume that you're like, wow, someone just confided something to me. Yep. That's huge. And it's happened to me as Vader. It's happened to me as Chewie. I've seen it happen to R2, where people will actually have a conversation. Actually, it's hilarious. On my TikTok, when I was filming, I brought R2 to a Starbucks.
Yes, yes.
You see it for a few moments in the thing, but for 5 minutes, this barista was bent over chatting to R2, and R2 was having a conversation with her. I don't know what they were talking about, but she patted him on the dome afterwards and thanked him. And then R2's kept the secret. He hasn't told me what she's talking about, but it was amazing to watch. And it's that magic that they think they're having when they believe, and you allow them to have an interaction with the character. You become a conduit for that character that means something to them. And that's so important. And for me, it's like, and again, this is just me, the biggest horrific thing, I would never, unless it's some kind of emergency and I needed to, obviously, but there's no way in hell Chewie's head is coming off in front of anyone.
Yeah.
And I will never walk around holding Chewbacca's head, unless I have to get somewhere, and I'll try to do it very discreetly, but I will never make a meal out of it. And I've seen some people that do, because they want the attention, and that's okay if they want the attention. And I'm just speaking personally, because someone invests their suspension of disbelief in you. You owe it to them to allow the character that has influenced them or meant something to them to be present in that moment for them. And then later on, when you're alone and you can take things off and you can like decompress from it. But in those moments, it's incredible what people will confess to you or tell you,
I know a lot of people are, I feel sometimes may feel that we're overthinking our role as volunteers in a costume, but it does, me personally, it does mean a lot to me to create some sort of that magic and create some sort of reality, because we're there in the end, we're there to raise money. Again, me personally, the purpose of us being there is to raise money for the charity or for the kids or for whoever it is that's there. And you need to make that moment real for them and make the people who are donating aware that this is not about us and it's not about, hey, look at my cool costume. Although it is so cool, that costume. You can have those conversations with those people that you know because you're reading the situation, but at the same time, it's just like, don't take that helmet off. And I remember that my very first troop, maybe 2 days of my first troop, I was wandering around with my helmet off. And then after talking with you, and you never chastised me for it. I know you didn't. No. But at the same time, I was listening to you talk about your story when you were in the streets and it was hot and you had to walk down the street, the blocks and blocks and blocks with this thing on, sweating profusely.
I think Jamie was with me.
Oh, was Jamie with you on that one?
Yes. He was the one with me.
Tell us the story, please.
I'll let Jamie tell the story because he was there with me where we walked back to the yoga studio.
Is that the Hats Off Day
3
parade?
kilometers or something.
Yeah, so the Hats Off Day parade in Burnaby. Parades are almost always a gong show in some way, shape, or form. Just the logistics of moving that many people back and forth and like getting that many people in the same place at the same time on the same schedule is just a nightmare. It always is. So we did Hats Off Day parade and it was a beautiful day. It was actually pretty warm, but yeah, we'd done the parade. Yeah, it was a long one, like 3 kilometers. I feel like that is pretty accurate. And we get to the end and we're like, okay, what's the transport situation looking like for on the way back? And rolls up this like mini train basically that you see in malls driving around like in the Metrotown Mall
with a bunch of Shriners driving it.
It was basically a Shriner scale mini train. And they're
knees
like, okay,
to your chin as you sit in, I'm assuming.
And I was like, what? So first off, like the flexibility in a stormtrooper costume is not great. It's probably better than a Death Trooper, Nick, but not by much. Depending on the kinds of mods you do to the kit and everything. But an accurate one is not very mobile at all. So I saw that thing, like, well, I'm walking. Like, there's no way I'm getting on that thing. I have permanent scars from squeezing myself into someone's car. And it like drew blood, and those marks are there forever now. So I'm like, well, I'm walking. Now I don't have the fortitude of Nick. As soon as we got to the side street, that helmet came off because it was hot. But yeah, Nick and I kind of looked at each other like, well, let's get to hiking. So we just get down on a side street and do parallel to the parade route back. And Nick is walking along still. Like, I love seeing Vader walk at like full stride because you get the wool cape that's like billowing outwards just like it does in the movies, and it's I don't know if intimidating is right. It's impressive. It's impressive.
Most
to see
impressive.
That. Yes, right. So I'm walking along. I'm hot, like on the I don't even know how to describe it. So I can't imagine how warm you were, Nick, but yeah, the dedication is insane.
I couldn't, as soon as I saw that there were people there, I couldn't take my helmet off.
Yeah.
I was
it was a nice day. So there's people out, and I remember thinking very specifically, like, of course it's a day where all of these people on this residential road are all just sitting out on their porch or their front step of their house. And of course, like seeing, even a stormtrooper with their helmet off, but like Darth Vader walking by very purposefully, walking with purpose down this residential road in Burnaby. And I don't know how I would react. And it would probably be the same way that most of these people would. And it was just staring and just kind of like head tracking Vader as he walks by your front yard. And
with an escort.
Yeah. And one of the funniest things I've ever heard in anything ever was one of the lines you dropped on someone where it's a husband and his wife sitting there on the step doing the staring thing, and you looked at them and you said, "I'm looking to buy in this neighborhood," and just kept walking. And like that just killed me. Like, that's going to my grave with me, Nick. Like,
yeah,
that's good. I felt so bad for how hot you must have been, but like that's the one thing I remember about that long trek back.
Well, it's. I remember that. Yes, I remember
Oh,
telling
God,
those people that.
funny.
But it's when I worked in very hot climates in other characters. At that point, there was limited fans or cooling packs or anything like that. Technology has now changed a lot, and so none of my kits have fans in them. I'm very old school that way. So at ILM, There's no fans in my helmet.
Yeah.
There's no fans. And you were saying 3 hours, Rob? I don't know. I think I was at 4.5 or 5.
You're in a little bit longer
long.
than yeah.
But and again, it's like I was watching you and Ryan, and all you needed to do is to be celebrating your victory of the Death Star and those around there and being celebrated. Like, isn't it great? We destroyed the and it could be that you think those people with their drinks and parties are celebrating the destruction of the Death Star as well.
That's so good.
And then you could be like, we're going to head down to Endor, or it's like, or even saying, somebody like, it could be all kinds of stuff, especially that sort of celebratory type thing, right? Again, keeping that world alive. So you're starting to believe they're in that world with that. The characters believing they're in that world. Mm-hmm. The characters thinking they belong, right?
Yeah, so. I love that. That's awesome. Again, I feel that it's going to be tough doing it without talking. And there's a part of me that wants to install a mic and just kind of practice saying Neon Nun gibberish and seeing if I can pull it off. Because if it doesn't work, it's going to drop like a rock. But
and also know. And have you translated for yourself what he says in those different sound bites?
Oh, some of them, some of them are pretty obvious. May the force be with you. There's singing. He speaks Kyuku, which is, I believe, an African dialect. I can't remember the name of the actor. I've actually made a video on it, but a short video. But it is Kyuku. But I don't know if it means anything, because when I was pulling the stuff from Battlefront 2, the first Battlefront, the sound bites, it was just a lot of screaming and yelling in the midst of war. And so there was points where it was calm. It was like, "Oh, up about there," and it was just like, it's almost like, "Oh, poor thing." And I know certain things I could use.
That sounded pretty good, actually. That would sound pretty good with a modulator.
I was throwing it around, so I appreciate that. But there's certain things that I think I can pull off. There's the laugh I cannot pull off, despite the fact I love doing it, but that's what the voice box is for. So, and maybe there's certain things that I can just say gibberish and just kind of point and direct, and just, you see it, he's like, whoa, he's like throwing around.
Totally.
Just a lot of them, because one of the things I remember you saying before we started that particular event was overact,
it's over gesticulate.
Yeah.
Or you think you're over gesticulating, but with a costume, you're really not.
Yes. And so and it's strange, because I still had troubles doing that because I was around a bunch of adults who were of ILM, and for some reason I felt intimidated a slight bit, and then eventually I saw people just really excited and they were geeking out. I'm like, okay, these guys are having fun too. But I have this quote, and we're going to wrap it up soon here. I have this quote from Oscar Wilde. I love this quote, and it's one of my favorites. It says, "Man is least himself when he talks in his own person. Give him a mask and he will tell you the truth." Yeah. And that's how I feel when I have a mask on. I feel more at ease. I can goof around. I wore my Neon Nun costume to school one day, not just to show off the costume, because we do these things called Genius Hour, and we work on projects, and this was a project I was working on. Here's what I'm doing. And in front of my kids, a bunch of teenagers, grades 6, 7, and 8, who think everything's uncool, especially Star Wars now. It's just like, I have this persona as a teacher. I play a teacher at school. The way I act in front of my son is different than the way I act in front of my students, the way I act in front of my parents.
Exactly.
And so
I teach it like that too.
Yeah. And I put the costume on and I was silly. And it was weird. It was weird for them because they knew who was underneath the costume, but it was weird to see Mr. Williams being a little bit silly in this thing. And so I take it off and they're just kind of looking at me like, what was that about? But it's just like, just Neon Nun.
Well,
and so
it's funny you mention that, because that's very natural progression. When I teach mask, and again, coming from the Lecoq sort of training of it, when you start with mask, and usually I start, just because of the space of the term, I will start them in a neutral mask where they have to rely on their bodies to tell the story. So it all becomes removing this, so they can't see the emotion here, but putting that emotion in the body. Then moving from that into a larval mask, which is like an exaggerated sort of, it's a creature that is, in the process of learning what they are. Again, not speaking, but then allowing more exaggerated movements. So maybe like one class, they're going to be watermelons, yeah, it happens. And so that whole getting comfortable in the awkwardness of this sort of, movement. Gradually moving down to then a character mask, which still not speaking, but it has a very expressive features that they then embody. And then the counter mask to that as well. Like, they may look angry, but they're actually very happy. So playing the opposite of what the mask represents. Then going into a half mask where their mouth is exposed, where they can learn and speak and engage, sometimes in English, sometimes not. But then going from there, out of that, and this is where it gets, for clowning, you remove that mask and you put on the red nose, which becomes your smallest mask, or almost your smallest mask, because now the red nose is the mask you put on before you perform. And that allows you to still be another character. And then it's that process from the red nose to the removal of the red nose when you're in your costume. And you'll see a lot of clowns now either have the red nose or they work without the red nose. And in Cirque du Soleil, you'll see a lot of clowns without the red nose. And they're great. They're the ones, the ushers, that are bringing people and messing with them, and they're doing all kinds of stuff. But it's a gradual evolution to, there's a poem called The Mask I Wear. And it's all about that. And you say it too. We wear a mask when we engage with our friends, when we're with our partners, when we're with our children, when we're teaching. Each time you go into a new room or a new space, you're putting on another mask. And who you are in your car as you're driving to these things, or in your own room, or like what I was doing before I realized I was doing this with you, like staring at the wall. Again, those are the moments where people don't see that part of us. And sometimes I will allow people to see that part of me, but it's really funny, and it's probably happened to both of you too. You'll be in that sort of very neutral state, and then what happens? What's the common thing? People say, "Are you okay? What's wrong?" I think, actually nothing. I was just in my neutrality. But they're so used to the mask you put on, it's awkward for them. They're, okay, you're okay? I'm totally fine. I'm just being. I always talked about my students about just be. Yeah, I like that.
Jamie, you got anything else to add before we wrap it up here?
No, I think it's good to wrap it up.
I really appreciate this, Nick. I super appreciate this because
have I helped?
Oh my God,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I've been taking notes, and then I realized I've got this recorded. I can go back to the recording, but I've been taking notes because that's how my brain works. But I like some of the ideas I got out of this. For example, is having that. The
talisman, your touchstone.
Let's say like here. I have that talisman. Yeah, basically have that touchstone and. Yep. Having something that I can connect with. I got a couple ideas out of this that I might use, and I'm really looking forward to it because we have a troop this weekend. I might actually pull out both costumes and see how it goes. It's this weekend in Port Coquitlam. It is it's backpacks. It's we're handing out backpacks and such for kids in Port Coquitlam. I can't remember the top of my head.
Great! Then you're supplying the rebellion.
There you go, or the Empire, depending on which we're.
Or the Empire, yeah.
But yeah, it's just we're gonna be doing a troop, and maybe I can start kind of incorporating some of these things. And again, some people this may be overkill. It may be overboard. It's just a troop, but it really isn't. It's a lot of fun, and this is why I do this. It's fun for me to do this, and I'm raising money too. So
yeah,
and I'm turning 50 years old, for crying out loud, and I still have fun running around like an action figure and just doing this sort of stuff. So I wish I'd done this sooner, as I said before.
And you know what? And the thing is too is you're going to encounter within the Rebel Legion and the 501st and the Saber Guild, people are doing it for different reasons, and they're all valid.
Yes,
and some people love to be in character, some people don't, and it's totally fine. And it's really about what is your truth in this, what you're doing, and they're all legitimate, they're all very valid, and I agree. Like for me, it's about charity, raising money, and just keeping that brand, being a brand ambassador. And not everyone does that, and that's okay. But it's what I find upsetting, especially in where there's more garrisons in closer proximity to each other. It's like every garrison has their agenda, and it's like it's just really, it doesn't need to be that way. We're all part of the same franchise. We're all share the same galaxy, so we can all play in it. It's a big galaxy, so let's enjoy it.
Well, out here in the Outer Rim, we're having a fun time. And
totally.
Thank you so much, Nick, for coming on the show and talking to me. This is the end of our JED-Talk. Really appreciate
the JED-Talk.
And again, I'm going to give full marks to Jamie for that quote. But where can we find you, Nick? For those who want to look you up and just check out some of the stuff that you do.
Well, I have a website, nicholasjharrison.com, or you can check me out on TikTok with all the kids. And that's at Nick the Guy with a C, not a CK. And also, you can find the book on Amazon. You can find it at Reasons Press, Barnes & Noble, Chapters. Please buy it.
Look at this. So little things in there from our last discussion you had when we were on our show. So again, another great episode. So
did I share with you that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau wrote to me?
Yes, you did. That is very cool. Anybody
he read the book
like that,
he loved it. He loved the book.
No matter your politics, it's always kind of neat to have somebody that high up in political world just recognize something like that.
I think within a week it was him and Alvin Johnson. So it was like both of them. Alvin Johnson, for those who don't know, one of the founders of the 501st. So that is so cool. I'm more excited about Alvin more than anything else. Right? I think I might have been as well.
But there you go. And Jamie, thank you so much, not only for being here just to record, but for coming on the show and just being my sidekick here to help out with this. So, and I really appreciate what you do for the 501st as well, because as Nick said, you do some amazing work as a CO, but you also do some amazing work as a friend. And I'm being honest about that. So I really
thanks very much for including me in this. I was really looking forward to it.
Other than that, thank you for watching the Outer Rim Rookie, and don't forget to like, subscribe. I should have said that at the beginning there. We're past 200. Let's get to 300. And if you want to know more about what we do for the 501st or the Outer Rim Garrison, click the links below. We really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you later. Remember, armor and character is built on hope. So we'll talk to you there. Bye.